This is Sue Jackson from the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with another Friday Reads. This week signaled the end of Big Book Summer for me and the start of the Fall Challenge I join every year, which is the RIP Challenge, Readers Imbibing Peril. So as you can tell from the name, it's all about reading darker, creepier stuff for fall, which I love. So mysteries, thrillers, anything supernatural, even like dystopians, anything a little dark. I always enjoy this. My husband reads almost exclusively mysteries and thrillers, so we have a lot of them on my shelves, and I feel like I never have time to get to all the books I want to read. So I always enjoy this challenge in the fall. However, I did start this week out with a book that would count as a book for the Big Book Summer Challenge because it's more than 400 pages and does not really count for the RIP Challenge. That's because it's my book group's choice. They are just coming back from summer break, meeting next week, and so I just picked this up at the library last week. It is The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. I loved her The Secret Life of Bees, of course, as everyone did, but I haven't read anything by her since then. Now, this is one of those books that, this happens with me once in a while, everyone said was a great book. And I read the synopsis and thought, doesn't sound like something I'd like. So I've been ignoring that for years, and now my book group chose it, and everyone said it was great, and they were right. It's excellent. I'm really enjoying it so far. It is a little more than 400 pages. Like I said, it would have counted for Big Book Summer. I'm almost halfway, and it's a very unusual book because it is a fictional story set in biblical times about Jesus and his wife Anna. And really, Anna is at the center of this story. In the beginning, she is a teen girl who her father has betrothed to an older, mean widower, and she's not happy about this. Anna is a very special girl, especially for this time and place, in that she really has no desire to marry or have children. She wants to be a writer. And at that time, girls were not even educated. They were not allowed to learn to read and write. Now, she grew up in a very wealthy family. Her father was the head scribe to the tetrarch. They're under Roman rule at this time. And so Anna's father does hire tutors and allow her to learn several languages, to read and to write. And she loves to write. She loves to tell people stories. One of her pet projects is she's noticed that the Bible is all about the men. And so one of her pet stories is to take the women that were mentioned in the Bible and write their stories. So she's a very special person for this time. And then she meets Jesus, who's just a few years older than her. He is, of course, a carpenter. He's recently lost his father, lives with his mother and the rest of his family, and it's left to him as the eldest son to care for and provide for his mother, his brothers, and his sister. So that's kind of the setup at the beginning. I will admit I'm not a biblical scholar. I know kind of the basics, and that's about it. But it's interesting how the author has taken, bits from the Bible, but then expanded the story and fictionalized it around some of these characters. And of course, I believe Anna herself is fictional. But the writing, and I should have known this from The Secret Life of Bees, the writing is fabulous. I'm just really immersed in the story. I hate to set it down at night, which of course is always a good sign. So that's The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. I'm enjoying it very much so far and looking forward to book group next week when we'll talk about it. On audio, I did try to choose something that fit the RIP challenge, but I'm not so sure how well I did on that. I am listening to, I believe it's a YA fantasy novel that I've had in my backlog for years. I think I downloaded it from the free sync downloads every summer. I'll link to that down below in case you're interested. It's a wonderful program. So this book is called A Corner of White by Jacqueline Moriarty. And apparently it's book one of a trilogy called The Colors of Madeline. So I'm not very far into it yet. Now, if you read my blog, you know that I have admitted many times I'm not a huge fan of fantasy. Don't usually enjoy the sort of fantasy where it's a whole invented world, which is exactly the kind of book that my son loves. That is his favorite. He loves epic fantasies like that. It's not so much my thing. I do sometimes enjoy fantasies where it's set in the real world and there are elements of fantasy or magic. And that seems to be the case here. It's kind of a mixed bag. I'm not very far into it. But so far, A Corner of White is all about, there are two parallel storylines. And one takes place in the real world in Cambridge, England, where there are three children, teens. I think they're like right around 12, 13 years old. They live near each other. They're all homeschooled together, and they're in Cambridge. So they're going through their homeschooling program, hanging out in town, they're friends. At the same time, there's another story going on that I guess, this hasn't really been explained yet, but that I guess takes place in another world. I don't know if it's like an invisible world, if there's some sort of portal to it. But in that story, the main character so far is Elliot, a young boy, again, probably about 12, 13 years old, who is going on some sort of a quest, trying to provide for his mother. So that you've got these two parallel stories, one in the real world, one in this fantasy world, where clearly there is magic and things like that. So I don't know where it's going yet. I'm enjoying it so far, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that's A Corner of White by Jacqueline Moriarty. So that's what I'm reading right now. What are you reading this weekend? I would love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments down below. And I hope that you'll like this video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more.